Today we will be talking all about optimizing teamwork and harnessing how you can work with collections and workspaces for collaboration. I know some of you might have already been familiar with Postman and you might have worked with some collections, but today we're really going to show how you can work together in teams and work in a collaborative way. So, with that, I wanted to go ahead and start introducing myself as well as my colleague Debo. So, my name is Pooja. I am a developer advocate here at Postman, and I really love sharing all things that we do here at Postman. We have so many exciting features and things that are happening constantly. So with these intergalactic sessions, my goal is to really aim to educate you all on all of the interesting things that are happening here at Postman. Debo, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Gbadebo. You can call me Debo. I work on the same team as Pooja as a developer relations engineer. And I really love talking a lot about APIs. I love educating developers, love interacting with the community. And I can't wait to share all that we have to discuss here with you today.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Debo. I'm really glad to be collaborating with you on this session. You and I already work together on the developer relations team, so we have a little bit of background when it comes to teamwork, and we'll show you exactly what that looks like as we go through this session. So with that, just to go through a little bit of an agenda, today we're going to be introducing API collaboration. We're going to talk about the different types of collaboration and the networks that you can publish your assets on, whether that be public or private or partner. We'll go through a demo, which shows you how you can kind of work together on a team, work with workspaces, and also collaborate on different assets. We'll be diving into best practices, and finally, we'll be sharing a lot of resources and Q&A as we go forward with this session. So let's just jump right in. Before I know, we sent out this poll as you were signing up, but I wanted to first start off before getting to know about ourselves, like getting to know a little bit about you guys. So feel free to take this poll on the screen. You can actually click it on the screen and it should be a little bit more interactive that way. But it looks like we have, some folks that are definitely beginners and some folks that have at least used Postman a little bit, so have some sort of intermediate expertise when it comes to working with Postman. So for those of you who are beginners, I hope that this session is enlightening enough for you to see like the power of teamwork within Postman. So let's go ahead and just jump right in and talk about what exactly API collaboration it consists of. So I wanted to introduce API collaboration in a way that it really is about working with different teams on your API assets. So when it comes to your API assets, you have collections, which are shareable and executable JSON files. But when you work with a team, you can basically work on different workspaces and you could share and collaborate effectively on these assets. So you can be a member of 10 teams regardless of your plan. And then if you are a Postman free member, you can create a team up to 3 people. And so with workspaces, you can share your work with internal and external teams. Workspaces are really designed to be this single source of truth, and they're designed to streamline development. So with that, I wanted to share a couple of blogs with you all. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then we will have Joyce, we will have our moderators share some links in the chat. So let me give you a little bit of an idea, some interesting blogs that you can read to kind of get started with thinking about teams. So this blog is really interesting because it's the ultimate guide to setting up a team workspace. So it goes through what are team workspaces, the different benefits of a workspace. So for example, they help you organize your work, it helps you collaborate on different content, you can onboard teams faster. And then this blog really organizing and creating your team, which we'll be going through more hands-on today in our demo. be sure to take a look at this blog when it comes to setting up your team. It's really ideal in understanding the things that you will need to go ahead and set up this workspace. So maybe after this session is done, this is a great blog to reference all we've gone through. And then finally, I also wanted to go ahead and share this blog, which is about solving problems together within Postman Workspaces. And this really dives into what exactly are workspaces in Postman and how do they work. Workspaces are truly a place for all skilled professionals, whether you work, in a carpentry shop or whether you work in APIs, where all of your tools come together and you can work on delivering your work in working together in one place, but also delivering and publicizing your forward to the world. So be sure to read both of these blogs on setting up a team and how you can work with this. And this was written by our CEO, Abhinav. So it's a really good blog. So let's go ahead and back into our slides and talk about where you can go ahead and publish your workspaces. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing and we can go ahead and put our slides up. Sounds good. So different types of collaboration, because there are different types of APIs that you can create. You can create public APIs that you want to show to the world. You can create partner APIs where you are working with partners and you're creating content specifically to partners. And then, of course, there's private APIs working with internally within teams as well. So within Postman, we have a couple different networks and workspaces. So we'll be showing the public network, but this is the network that enables you to share all of your collections, all of your workspaces to all of the consumers on the internet. And are actually doing another Intergalactic next month in March that will dive specifically into the public network. But this is for external collaboration. Private network, if you have an internal team, well, you can share those privately. And then partner workspaces allow you to collaborate with your partner. So I think this is our opportunity to go ahead and jump into a demo to kind of show you exactly what kind of looks within the product itself. But we have a link that we wanted to share in the chat, kind of give you a little more insight on API collaboration and how these three public, private, and partner APIs can be distributed throughout Postman. So I'll just go ahead, jump in and go through a demo to give you a little bit more of a hands-on perspective on this type of optimization of teamwork. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and Debo and I will show you exactly what it looks like to work in a team, create a team, and work with these particular. Go ahead and share my screen. So let's start here. So I wanted to go forward and show you the Postman platform. So currently, both Debo and I are part of the Postman DevRel team. So our team has about like 15 members. We create a ton of different assets. We have workspaces. So these show you all the different workspaces that we have. Within here, you can take a look at workspaces, our private API network, and also we have links here like what is Postman, our learning center, things you can do with specific templates. So there's a lot going on here in our team workspace, but I wanted to go ahead and kind of start from like create a team from scratch. So within your profile, you can see that I'm already part of quite a few teams, and I wanted to go ahead. So when you go ahead and create a team, can move workspaces within your team, or you can keep your workspaces separate from a team. So I'll go ahead and create a separate team from scratch. So I'll go ahead and create that team. And let's set up this team and see what that looks like. So when I go ahead and set up this team, so I will zoom a little bit here so you guys have a little bit of insight here. So let's call this Intergalactic team. A specific URL to access this team in Postman. So I'll call this Intergalactic team. And then I'll go ahead and continue. It's already in use, so let's call this test right here. So once you have created a team, you can invite team members. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link, and I'm going to share that with my colleague Debo, so he gets a little bit more idea of what it looks like to join a team. So I'll go ahead and send that link to Debo, and he should now have access with that team. So when I go ahead and click continue, you can see that I have already a team workspace that has been created within this team. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that Debo can share his screen and show you what it looks like to join a team on his end. So let me go ahead and do that. So Debo, do you want to pull up your screen to show that view?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Pooja. So now that Pooja has invited me to this particular team, I'm going to be sharing my screen in any minute from now.
All right, wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the invite link that Pooja has shared with me and just paste that here in my browser. Now I have an interface that is telling me a teammate has invited me to join their Intergalactic team. And I can click this accept invite button to accept this invite and join the team. Now I have to select an account that I want to use to join this team. I'm going to use my DevRel account. So yeah, it's presenting me with an option that before I join this team, do I want to keep my workspaces or transfer them to the team? And once these workspaces are transferred, it will be managed by admins of that team. So I want to keep my current existing workspace separate from that team. So if peradventure I was working in a workspace before and I want to transfer all of the work I've been doing in that workspace to that team, I could also like select the first option and that would be done for me. So now that this invite has been accepted, I can see here that it's welcoming me to the Teams workspace, and it's presenting me an option to import an existing file or start from a collection template. So here, what collection templates are essentially, they're just like a set of templates. So a workspace is, think of a workspace like your workbench. It has different set of tools that allow you to do certain things. So for example, if you're in a carpentry shop, you'd have an hammer, you'd have a nail, you'd have a chisel. Each of those different things have their functionality and they all work together to help you to create a furniture. So that's essentially what a workspace is. There are different tools for different things you need to do on an API. And these different tools can work together essentially to help you write documentation, to help you test your API, to help you create a monitor, and do a bunch of other things. So I can start from a collection template, which presents with me different options depending on the kind of collection I want to create. So if I was a backend developer, for example, and I was working on some integration testing API, I could start with this template. Or if I was just working on a basic REST API, I could start with this template. So I'm just going to start with the REST API basics here. And when I use this template, you'd observe that it automatically creates a collection for me. But now I do not have an empty workspace. I have a collection pre-filled with a couple of API requests. I have a GET request, a POST request, a PUT request, and a DELETE request. This GET request here is a GET request to a demo API that we have created in this template. And if I send this API request, you see that I'll get a valid response from that API request. So now it's just telling me that you made a GET request. So let's go over the flow of creating a workspace from scratch. So if I want to create a workspace, I come to this workspace here, workspace button here at the top navigation bar, click on this Create Workspace button. Now I have the option of either creating a blank workspace, similar to the kind of workspace I landed on, which is a team workspace, or I can also select a template from the existing templates here. Now this template is similar to the collection templates we had, where it prefilled it with a bunch of API requests with different request method because I selected the REST API templates. I'm just going to create a blank workspace here so we have something from scratch. I'm going to name this Intergalactic Demo Workspace. And here I have multiple options. I can create a personal workspace, which means only me would have access to that workspace. Or I could create a team workspace, which means I can invite team members to the workspace. I can create a partner workspace if I'm working with external partners that are external to my company. If perhaps there are contractors working on an API for us, or perhaps an organization is collaborating with my organizations and we're working together on the same API. Or I could create a public workspace where anyone on the internet can have access to that particular workspace. So here I'm just going to create a team workspace. Since I and Pooja are on the same team, this will give both of us access to edit access to the workspace. Now that I have an empty workspace, I can invite a team member to this workspace. So if I click on so here
So it looks like I'm actually already part of that workspace because I'm part of your
oh
team.
yeah, right.
So, you know, if you want to put some collections in that team, and then we can take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, go for that.
Let's create a collection from scratch in this scene. So I've created a new collection. Let me name this collection Users Collection. So I can create a basic API request here where this reads, let's say get users, for example.
And I'm going to go ahead.
I can use something called.
And I'm going to go ahead and apply a bunch of collections in here too. So I'm adding a couple of collections in here in real time as well. So we're working on this workspace a little bit together here.
Yeah. So we're able to collaborate on this in real time. So in this request, I'm going to use something called the Postman echo service just to quickly simulate an API request to a server. And I'm going to save this request and send that request. So essentially what the echo service just does is it echoes any API request I make back to me. So I've been able to create a request, create a collection. But now you could see that from just creating this collection, Pooja was able to add, from just creating this workspace, Pooja was able to add other collections to this workspace. But there are other ways in which we could collaborate on this workspace. For example, Pooja can come and fork this collection and update this collection on our end and make something called a pull request to this collection. So Pooja, do you want to share your screen and show that workflow where you're forking this collection, making changes to this collection, and we're collaborating on that in real time?
Sure. So let me go ahead and do that. So if I want to go ahead and I'll go share my screen. So now that Debo added this collection, I can actually, I've made some different, I've created a post user. So actually, if I wanted to go ahead and, so this is in the instance, so right now me and Debo are both on this team, but you can actually change the roles as well. So for example, if I wanted to go to manage roles, right now both Debo and I are editors, but if I wanted to make somebody a viewer, this is actually available on professional and enterprise plans. So you can also change the roles where somebody is both an editor or just a viewer. So for example, if I was just a viewer of this particular collection, what I would need to do is I would need to go ahead and fork this collection and make changes to in my workspace and then submit a pull request. So we are making this particular workspace the source of truth. So let's say if I wanted to update this collection, I can go ahead and create a fork. So I'll go ahead and add my fork, and I'll change this to, let's say, a different workspace. So now if I were to you know add some query parameters. So name is Pooja. And if I wanted to save that, and let's say I wanted to duplicate this particular request, and I will name it and I'll say get user two. And I would want to change the body instead of it being a random um, variable. Let's say for whatever reason I want to hard code that in any way. So I've made some changes to this particular um, workspace. So I can, I'm getting some sort of stuff. I can add some tests in this. So let's say if I wanted to, test that there are status codes 200. I wanted to, make sure that I have written some sort of tests in here. And I've made some changes. So you could see that this is from my particular fork. So I'm going to go ahead and create a pull request. And I'm going to give it a title, added changes, tests, and updates. And I can make some description. So added tests to get users, added a post request to user two. And then I can find a reviewer that I want to set. So I'm going to have Debo be one of my reviewers, and I'm going to go ahead and create that pull request. So you could see that all of the changes here that has happened, you could see I've added certain, I've made this update right here. You could see that I've added these particular tests here. I've added these names. You can see all of the changes that I've made to this particular collection. So now, I actually have this merge button because we're on the same team, but this is for the example if I have a developer access and not a viewer access. So in this case, actually Debo is going to go get notified. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Debo can show you notification on his end, and also the change log that he's seeing. So let's go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm sharing my screen now. So here you notice that there's a notification icon at the top navigation bar here. If I click on this icon, I'll get the most recent notification. I've also been notified via my email. So if perhaps I was not on the Postman interface, I'll get an email notifying me that Pooja created a pull request and wants to make changes to this particular collection in this workspace. So I can click on this view pull request button to view some of the changes that Pooja made. And I can see that she added this get user to request while she modified this get user request. And I can see the things she added. She updated the name, she added a new request method, she added a URL, she included a description. The body type is raw, and it's of the JSON raw format. I can see the body of the request she's adding. I can see all of the changes that she has made here. So peradventure, if I'm reviewing this and something doesn't exactly sit right with me and I want to give a comment or give Pooja some feedback on this pull request on what to include, I could come here and add a comment. I could add a comment here directly. And here she's using name. I can suggest that we could use full name instead.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
And then,
Pooja will get a notification on her hand
yep,
that I have made a comment on this particular pull request. So,
yep.
Pooja,
And
do you want to check?
so I see your comment and I can go ahead and reply to this real time. Um, uh, uh, and then you should see that comment as well. And then you should be able to now see you. I see that you get a notification on that, and you're able to
Yeah.
um, view my comment and view my reply to that comment. So you should be able to show you that. So maybe refresh, perhaps.
Yeah, let me refresh this page and see. I've gotten an email notification about your comments though.
Yeah. So, yep, I see that there's a reply on your end that you should be able to. Okay, cool.
She said, because I like my first name. So cool. So I could also reply this comment. And if we have been able to communicate and share feedback with each other via the comments here on the different changes or modifications that have been made. And you can see that the comments are exactly where those changes were made. For here where the guest user 2 request was added, there's a comment icon. For here where there was a modification on the get user request, there's a comment icon. So these comments are going to the specific places where I'm making an observation or giving a feedback. And if everything looks good, I can click on the merge button.
Mhm.
And I have 3 options here. So I can match these changes and the destination will be updated. I can match changes and update the source, which means the change will be updated in both Pooja's workspace, both Pooja's forked collection and this particular collection. I can match the changes and delete the source, which means if I match these changes, the collection that Pooja forked will be deleted. So I'm just going to match the changes and update the source as well.
Cool. So I see that those changes have been merged on our end.
Yeah. And if I come to this users collection, I can see that I now have the users 2 request, which was not previously here before. If I come to the request body, I can see that it has that exact request body that I saw in the change log of that pull request. And all of the changes Pooja made has been added to this specific collection.
Yep. Awesome. And we can actually comment on the requests themselves. So there's 2 different modes. So we're right now on the editing mode, but we can also go on the comment mode. So if you want to switch that on, Debo. Cool.
Yeah, so I can switch between the editing mode and the comments mode here. So in the comments mode here, I can comment on anything. If you look at my workbench here, I have the query parameters, auth, headers, body, per request, and test script. So I can comment on any of those options available to me, including the request body. So if I select this here, I can see the comments menu opening up here. And I can leave a comment that where are we I can tell her to update this to a variable. And as usual, Pooja gets a notification on our end. Now you can see that this comment is exactly where I'm giving a feedback on or where I'm leaving a comment on. It's not like the general comment section for this entire collection. So if I wanted to leave a comment on the request header, or let me go to this request that has a query parameter, yeah, this particular one, and I switch to the commenting mode, and I'm like, okay, let's store this value as a variable. The comment is exactly on this value input in the query parameter tab. of my workbench. So the comment is going exactly where I want it to go. And on Pooja end, when she receives a notification and she views it, it pops up exactly on this option here, and she's able to know that I'm requesting for a variable update on the value for my query parameter, because that is exactly where I made a comment.
Yep. So I see that on my end
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So it's great that we've gone through comments and things like that. I guess I wanted to show how you can share these collections. So let me go ahead and share my screen because I think we've gone through pull requests, merging, working with workspaces. So let's talk about sharing. So just a second. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
All right. So now that we're here, I can see Debo's comment on that particular value. So, it looks like, we can go ahead and I can reply to that. Sure. Um, sounds good. I will go ahead and edit, make changes. So I can go ahead and set that as a variable, set as a new variable. I'll call it name and I'll set that as a collection variable. So now that variable is set as a name. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and share this collection. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can always click on share, and share allows you to share it with people. So you can share it via link. You can give them a link to this particular collection. You can add their email. You can also share it by run via Postman. So if you click on embed run in Postman button, this gives you a button that allows you to copy the code, and it gives you a snippet. So you can basically, it's a markdown snippet. And now you should see this button that allows you to basically fork that collection and run that in your own workspace. So let's say you have like a website that you have a bunch of APIs and a bunch of collections that you want people to take a look at. You can share via using the run in Postman button. And then you can also share via API key and generate an API key and things like that. So with that, there's let's say Debo and I have been working on this workspace and we're really happy with this workspace. We want to share it with everybody on the internet. This is a public workspace. We have written some really great documentation. We have documented our folders really well. We're really happy with it and we want to share this. Right now, this is a team workspace. You can actually then share this as a public workspace. So if I share this as a public workspace and update it, uh, now this workspace will get refreshed and you could see that it is available to everybody on the internet. So if we post this workspace in the chat, everyone should technically have access to it. So that's how you can make a workspace public. But these public network workspace, you can show them, you can actually see a lot of public network workspaces on our Explore tab, and you can take a look at all of the public APIs. So these are workspaces created by software teams across different work companies. So for example, Salesforce has a very public workspace. It has contributors. You could see that there are so many contributors for this workspace. You can create a team profile. So like, for example, this is the Salesforce team profile. And these are all of their public workspaces that are available. You could see that there are workspaces here that have, 500,000 views, 100,000 forks plus. And you can take a look at some of their collections, their APIs, etc. So this is what the public network looks like. And actually, next Intergalactic, March 20th, I will go ahead and share this link in the chat with everyone. And you should see a button on your top right that if you're interested in learning more about public workspaces and discovering public APIs, be sure to join this Intergalactic because we're going to dive a lot more into creating public teams, working with public APIs, all things public network on this particular Intergalactic. So that's what next month is all about. So, but yeah, there's a ton of public workspaces, and you can see things like trending APIs, collections, etc. So that's what the public network looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Intergalactic demo. And let's say I'm not really happy with creating this as a public one. I'm going to go ahead and just make this a team one again. Um, you can also make some of these workspaces in your private API network. So if you want your APIs to be internal, there's a central hub for private APIs. So this is actually available more on the enterprise plan or the developer plan. But just to give you a little bit of an idea, since we are on a DevRel team, and I have like you know um, different team, I wanted to show you a little bit of what it looks like to have like a private API as well. So for some reason, okay, there we go. So now we're here on my DevRel team, and this is a team that we have, and we also have access to our internal APIs that are private. And this is kind of what a private network should look like if you were to upgrade and take a look at that private network. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to show you. There's a public network for public APIs, as well as a private network that you can share internally for private APIs. And you can create up to 10 plus teams. So you have an organization, people can join the organization and join multiple different teams. You can share different assets like workspaces, collections, a lot of different things there. So there's a lot of different ways that we can kind of go about working with teams, working with workspaces, and kind of go from there. So with that, I wanted to go ahead and talk, or have Debo talk about some of the best practices that you can think about when it comes to workspaces, working with teams, things like that. So we'll go ahead and go back to our slides. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing here, and we'll go to our slides. So I hope you guys enjoyed our demo and found it intuitive of how to work with teams, how to work with workspaces, etc. Debo, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about our best practices workspace checklist?
Yeah. So we have 5 items on this list, but these are not the only best practices to follow. We're just limiting this to 5 so we do not overwhelm you with a lot of information. Ultimately, when you're working in a workspace in Postman, you want to understand who you're working with on the team and be considerate of those people and who is going to be consuming that workspace if it's going to be a public workspace. So if you are putting this in consideration that you're working in a team, or perhaps sometimes in the future, someone would need to update that workspace, or perhaps use the API in that workspace in some of the projects they are working on. You want to put some certain things in place, right? You want to do things like provide a detailed description of the workspace. If you are describing the workspace, or if perhaps the workspace is on your private API network or it's on your public API network, and someone discovers that particular workspace, there should be something that tells them what this workspace is meant to do and what the corresponding collections or API requests in each of those collections. You should give them a broad overview of what's doing. So you should always provide a detailed description in your workspaces. And we've made this very easy for you. You can use either the Postman editor, or you can write it in Markdown. So you also want to make use of comments as a way of seeking clarification for things you do not understand. So let's say you want to work on a new workspace or a new collection, and you were not perhaps the one initially working on it, and you see the use of some environment variable that you're not really familiar with, or you are the developer building that API, and then there's something missing, there's a query parameter missing or wrongly used, and you want to seek clarification on why that specific thing was done the way it was. comments are a great way to collaborate and communicate without having to leave the workspace itself. And then from the demo we did, you saw that I was able to highlight the specific thing I wanted to make an inquiry or give a feedback about and leave a comment on just that specific thing itself. So rather than perhaps going on Slack and saying, hey, why did you not use an environment variable for the query parameter in certain requests? Just highlight that query parameter itself and give a comment. So don't underuse comments, always use comment appropriately to get feedback and clarifications on certain things. So in terms of like granting team members permission, we should always use the low or no trust model, whereby you're giving people only access to things they need. It's fine if you have a teammate of, let's say, 10 or 20 people and you're giving everyone editor access. Whereas in reality, not everyone needs to be an editor. The same way, not everyone needs to be an admin. So you should only give people access to things they need. There are people that perhaps only need to be viewers of that workspace and do not need to update it since they are not working since they're not working on the development of that API, or they're not in charge of like maintaining that workspace itself. Such people, you should give them viewer privileges where they'll have to like fork a collection in that workspace, make an update, make a pull request to that workspace. While if someone has admin rights or admin privileges and can manage other people in the workspace, they should have the admin role. While if it's a developer that is only responsible for creating new collection, updating requests and working actively in that workspace, you should give them an editor role. So you should only give people access to what they need in the workspace and not give people access to everything. It just helps you keep everything in check and make sure that there are not multiple people updating different things when they really shouldn't be doing that. You should also be very careful when you're sharing sensitive information in a collection or in a workspace. There are different ways in which you can go around sharing sensitive information. You can use collection variables, you can use environment variables, you can use global variables. So you should always be careful when working around sensitive information to make sure that they are not hard-coded in your collection, perhaps in your request body or your query parameters or your path parameters or your request headers. You should always use the appropriate environment variable or collection variable to share sensitive information. So when you're making your pull requests, because there are multiple people working in a collection, you shouldn't just make a pull request first. You should always try to pull changes from that collection before making a pull request to that collection. Because there might be multiple people working on that same collection simultaneously. If someone has updated something in that particular collection from the last time that you pulled and you do not have the most recent updates, and then you're changing something, it could lead to merge conflict, of which there's a way to resolve merge conflict when you're reviewing a pull request. But you should always ensure that you're pulling the latest updates, then you're making your own changes at top of the latest updates, then you're now making a pull request to certain collections that you're contributing to.
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely. I feel like sensitive information is a big key. There's a lot of ways to handle that with variables and environment variables. So we actually have a lot of resources for you all as you get started on your Postman teamwork journey. I'm going to go ahead and share some of these resources that you can take a look at. So we have our Learning Center. We have our products page for Workspaces. We have our team collaboration playlist, as well as some quick start guides. So I'm going to go share my screen again to share what some of these resources take a look like. So let me go ahead and do that. Maybe we can do that. So right here. Okay, great. So this is the Postman Learning Center. This is a great place to get started with all things Postman. If you're interested in, workspaces, collections, getting started with Postman, how to send your first API request, how to collaborate with your team. We have lots of resources here and lots of content and documentation here on getting started and even organizing your projects using Workspaces. So there's a lot of really great content that you can take a look at, specifically on our Learning Center site, which is pretty much one of the best resources for you to to take a look at when it comes to working with all things Postman. We also have a products page which kind of dives into just what workspaces are and how you can collaborate in real time. Um, you can take a look at just some resources here on managing user access. So in this webinar, since Debo and I are on the same team, we haven't really we both set up the roles as viewers and admin and developer, but you can actually get a lot more granular with your user access when it comes to working with teams. So that way you can maintain level of security and a level of role-based access as well. That's something that you might be interested as you get started. And then we have a team collaboration YouTube playlist. So this playlist goes into documentation as well as version control. So basically everything that we've shared here today, you can take a look at some of these videos just to kind of get in touch with version control, some comments, and how to scale your teams for collaboration. So definitely take a look at this playlist because this is a great starting point, and these videos are a few minutes long to kind of just get you started up and quickly, or you can rewatch this replay as well. And then, of course, we have our Getting Started with Postman quick start. And these are really great quick starts. This one is one of the most popular quick starts, which is called 30 Days of Postman for Developers. And if you get started, you can get this 30 Days of Developers badge. Where you can learn about all things Postman, how to work with tests, how to work with variable scripts, workspaces, etc. So this is by far one of the most in-depth, where you have day-to-day quick starts for working with authorization. And every day there's a new challenge that you can take a look at. So definitely take a look at some of our quick starts that we have available here. So these are some of the most most useful resources, and we will be sharing this replay along with some of the resources that we've shared out in these links as well with you. Next month, March 20th, like I mentioned, we will be diving into discovering public APIs and the public network with Postman. So be sure to join this session because today we talked about teamwork, but now we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into publishing APIs and what that looks like, and having the public network be your playground for discovery, as well as for if you guys are working, if you have public APIs, for you to publish and show those off to the world. So this is going to be a great session, and we're going to be partnering up with some folks on our public network, Yannick and Kyle, who is part of our partnership program, as well as our public network program as well. So definitely be sure to take a look at our next Intergalactic that's happening in March. So yeah, I think with that, I wanted to see if there was any specific questions, but it looks like our moderator Joyce has been pretty much on top of it, answering any questions that you might have in the chat. So I hope that was really insightful session for you all. You'll be receiving a lot more resources as we go forward, and Intergalactic is really a way for us to share everything that's going on in Postman. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our slides. It looks like we talked about best practices. It looks like we talked about some additional resources. And then, yeah, we love doing Postman Intergalactic and sharing everything with our attendees. So we are doing a lot more experiments this year, experimenting with new platforms for us to share this information. So if you joined Intergalactic in 2023, you've noticed that we've worked with Zoom, but today we're working with a new platform called Zettel. So we're always trying to make our intergalactic session a lot more different and intuitive. So we'd love to hear from you all on what you would love to hear about Intergalactic and how you found this session. And so be sure to take that survey. It's only a few minutes long. So I hope this was a insightful session for you all. And if you have any questions, feel free. You can find myself on Twitter and Debo on Twitter. I'll go back to the first slide. So maybe we can hide that banner for the survey, and I can actually play the first slide. And so you can take a look at our handles to find us on Twitter and reach out to us if you have any questions along those lines. So, Debo, do you have any last words that you wanted to share? We have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, I believe this one has an insightful session, and it's been great collaborating with you on this project. I'm really looking forward to the next session where we are going to be diving into the different API networks that we have, the public and the private API network, and learn how we can make the most of that. So if you are not already registered, you should please register for that session to get notifications and reminders about the session so that you do not forget. I'm looking forward to it and excited about it, and I hope to see you all next month on that session.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today, and I hope you found this engaging and exciting. So, yeah, we hope to see you all work with teams and workspaces within Postman. See you next month, where we'll talk about discovering public APIs.